Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
It's like, those things kind of penetrate, and now, so that's where we're at. I mean, how can't we just defend, a lot of these views and not just call it what it is? Anti-Semitism is a worldwide scourge, and it's constantly demonstrated to be deadly, and it keeps manifest itself in these things, just like what's happened now in Australia, too.
That's right. And Senator, a moment ago, Lindsey Graham was with me, your colleague from South Carolina, who said a warning to anyone who is trying to say that there should be a Palestinian state. If you create a Palestinian state, what you will get are more killings of Jews. Do you agree?
Absolutely. It's an absolute betrayal for Israel and for the worldwide Jewish community, like whether it's France or Australia or any of these nations, our Western allies now calling for a two-state solution when Hamas refuses to disarm and are actively trying to kill Jews. I can't imagine why anybody would do that at this point. That is not the appropriate reward after 10/7 and this thing. So I absolutely support Israel's continue to take out leaders from Hamas and Hezbollah as well, too. They need to be held accountable, and I do hope they can work together with the American forces in Syria to take out the people responsible for taking 2 American lives in Syria just yesterday now, too.
Welcome back to Training Tuesday, folks. The Rob Maness Show's live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. Well, the building attacks on Western civilization are strongly indicating that leftism, Islamism, anti-Semitism, influencer propaganda, and justice failures are merging. I know it seems like I've been harping on these things a lot lately, but the reality of what is actually happening is very important for all of us to understand from multiple perspectives. Over the last week, we've seen a worldwide string of Islamist and leftist attacks and planned operations revealed that appear to be synchronized to grab headlines, to terrorize, to kill Christians and Jews and conservatives during this holiday period. It's incredible what's going on. Americans, Europeans, and Israeli citizens are the clear targets during holiday separations and gatherings in groups such as happens at universities. Sadly, the continued failures of law enforcement, even with some successes that we'll highlight one, continues to provide disinformation fodder to propagandists and influencers like Candace Owens, who is in the news incessantly spouting her wacky conspiracy theories from Charlie Kirk's murder, nefarious intent by Israel, and even stating Erica Kirk was involved. And I'm sure you've all seen that they met just yesterday, and more to follow on that. We have to discuss these issues openly and factually in order to enable Western civilization, our civilization, to defend itself and defeat this evil that is upon us all. And my guest today to discuss all this is Stephen M. Abramowitz, and Steve is the CEO and editor of HeartlandJournal.com, host of the Heartland Journal podcast. The Heartland Journal is the original hometown print newspaper from Mill Creek, Washington, founded by an 82nd Airborne Army veteran dedicated to truth and patriotism. Steve, welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. I think I got him. Hey, welcome back, yes. Steve.
Thanks for having me, Colonel. Merry Christmas.
Hey, I appreciate you coming on. Once again, on short notice, second day in a row that, old Maness here is having guests guest issues. Luckily, I've got access to a stable of champions, and Steve is one of those. So I appreciate you coming on, man. Merry Christmas.
Yes, thank you for your service.
I'm sorry that we have to keep talking about these things, man, but I know you've written about each of the issues I want to touch on today. The first one is the rise of anti-Semitism that we've been talking about for quite a while, especially since October 7th, not just in independent media like this show or your podcast, but really even at the national media level. But what were your initial thoughts about this Australia attack that just occurred when you heard about it?
I remember living in Australia in the 90s, and they had one of the strictest immigration policies on earth at the time. And sometime around the 80s, they loosened it up dramatically. And so what you see, just like you see in Europe, just like you see in America, is especially through the student visa program, they took people over vetting. And sooner or later, even though for citizens of Australia, they had a gun buyback and they were touting the peacefulness of people not having a First Amendment or a Second Amendment right, I should say. Well, it came back to bite them, and it just so happens to be the evening of Hanukkah. So it was a anti-Semitic Jewish attack, which the oldest hatred on earth, I guess, reared its head again after maybe a couple of decades of somewhat calm and peacefulness, give peace a chance on the planet. But here it is again in our face, and 10 innocent souls are gone, not to mention what happened in Brussels. And of course, we did have a good thing last night. We had the people taking to the streets where communist governments were peacefully elected out of office in Chile and Bulgaria, but that's overshadowed, of course, by the violence of Islamic extremism.
Yeah, and you see pictures, and I wanted to highlight the anti-Semitism, but this is more, and I wanted to ask you, do you agree with me? I think it's more than just hatred against Jewish people. This is an all-out attack that appears to be global by Islamist extremists and their supporters, which include leftists, the red-green axis, Islam and Marxism together are acting together, and it's worldwide. And they're not all kinetic. Like I think last night I also saw a video coming out of the Brussels Christmas market being not kinetically attacked, but disrupted by Islamists and Palestine supporting, Hamas supporting protesters and those kind of things. But that's happening all across Europe, where these Christmas markets are very popular.
It's all over the world. I mean, Nigeria is killing Christians too. I mean, they keep covering up for it and making excuses for it as if it's not happening. I mean, they aren't even allowed to say at the police department at Brown whether or not he yelled something. I doubt it was the Notre Dame Fighting Irish fight song or Remember the Alamo, So if it turns out it was Allah Akbar, we know who our enemy is. But, the husband of the mayor of Providence, Rhode Island, has an ex-post of himself with Free Palestine flag. So I guess they just don't want us to know. The whole Gays for Gaza never made sense to me, since they don't allow homosexuality in Gaza or Qatar, for that matter. They kill them there, right? So more actually flee to Israel for asylum from their fellow refugees than anywhere else in the Middle East. Transgenders too, and they're actually taken in, lovingly accepted, not killed. But Israel is the bad guy at the UN always. So between influencers and the UN and the WHO and the list goes on of institutions that are global, the ancient blood libel of how Jews are the terrible enemy of everybody's problems, it just goes on and on.
Yeah, it's and the anti-Christian hatred is almost as ancient. Obviously, Christ was Jewish, and the apostles were all Jewish but one, I believe, and that has carried forward too. All the apostles were executed in one way or another and martyred, and the martyrdoms have continued on. And now we see, you mentioned Nigeria, but there's something with this Brown thing I want to dive into a little bit more in in the next segment that I believe has to do with Christianity, but it's crossing ideological lines, not from a political perspective, but it's more than just that this young lady, one of the fatalities, was a staunch Christian. There's more to it than that, I believe. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think is the specific danger from all these political and government officials essentially either lying by omission or lying about the facts in these cases where, in this case, you have the perp on the loose at Brown? That murderer is still running around somewhere in this country. I doubt he's been able to get out of the country at this point just because of the timing involved. What are your thoughts on this lack of truth, transparency? And this goes all the way from the highest levels in the federal government all the way to the lowest level in law enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was inevitable, leading up to October 7th and immediately after, we had this incredible amount of money spent by Qatar to make their image be a peace-loving part of the Middle East, one of the, bring us into the world of nations, and we were going to behave. And then, of course, October 7th and immediately went into a PR spin to be able to say, like, hey, it wasn't us. It was Iran. It was, these Gaza refugees. It was anyone else but us, while they were walking the halls of Congress, making friends and influencing people. And so what we got was all of a sudden some conservative influencers, people who had been brought into the MAGA world, whether it be the Tates or the Rogans or the Tucker Carlsons or the Candace Owenses, who immediately divided the Make America First from the MAGA crowd. Sorry, America First versus the MAGA crowd, Make America Great Again crowd, which is not going to help us much in the midterms. And so then you see, like, okay, we just heard John Fetterman, one of the only Democrats able to say that out loud. I don't know why he thinks he's able to, because he's been Christianity and Judaism have been run out of the Democratic Party for a long time, ever since they had a voice vote of taking God out of the convention in the 80s, 90s. But we have on our side, Lindsey Graham has made some good, nice comments, but Senator Tuberville literally has been designated a right-wing extremist by CARE, which is the terrorist organization that the government, American government, has designated a terrorist organization because of the Holy Land scandal that they had not long ago. And so I can't help but think that when you see people like this shooting, this woman was targeted, and she just happens to be the vice president of the conservative club of Brown, and it's a very liberal university, so very few of people like her. Then you have Rob Reiner's son, who kills his mom and dad. He's a transgender who's had a drug addiction, and he's been, heard fighting the night before at a party, and then, covered in blood. So, innocent until proven guilty, but it's looking pretty bad. These people have been, and even Rob Reiner himself checked himself into a mental hospital last November because of his Trump derangement syndrome. So what we're seeing here, I believe, is these atheistic, communistic zealots are going completely crazy because they're losing in the realm of politics in D.C., whether they shut down USAID, whether they're exposing the fraud from the Somalis in Minnesota and now Maine, taking advantage of all the services, which means they're probably not going to win re-election, because if people were given a fair election, they're not going to vote for that. I wouldn't think so. We don't like to be ripped off. So we're just, and the influencers aren't helping. They're whispering in people's ears, like Megyn Kelly, telling them that everything is not what they believe and what they see. When they can see it for themselves, now they can't have a trusted voice in the conservative movement to actually say, no, Republicans are the solution to your problems. Democrats have caused these problems. So, long story short, I just think that the whole quasi-religious, political, Western civilization melting pot of ideas has gone completely sinister, and it's leading to violence and death, unfortunately, because that's what they always do. They'll lash out with guns when they can't make their case with words.
Yeah, and in the middle of all that, you have institutions like the Department of Justice, local law enforcement, the FBI in failure mode quite often, more often than not, really. Even today with the new administration, it's still quite a bit of failure, and we'll talk about that in the next segment. But we got to take a break right now. And leading clip will be about this Brown University assassination. I believe it was an assassination on at least one of the people in there, maybe all three. We'll be right back with Steve Abramowitz.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed.
They got the guy's height, they got his weight, and they go, you want to update the country on what this guy's ID looks like? And they go, we'll put it on the website. Right. You have millions of people watching the press conference live, and you don't want to tell anybody? You say, oh, I'll put it out on a website? Come on. Is the guy 220? Is he Caucasian? What? They didn't even do it. And then they get the timeline wrong, like Dana said. I couldn't hear a word he said. Everyone's trying to back off. No one knows what's going on. It's 3 days later, after a gunman walked into an Ivy League university building and murdered the vice president of the college Republicans, killed 2 people, injured 11, and walks away. We don't know where he is. We don't know what he is, and doesn't seem to be that concerning to the people that were delivering that press conference. This was a premeditated target attack. The guy was casing the facility beforehand. They have 800 cameras at this university. They didn't have a camera at the entrance to the building, so you can see who goes in and out of the building. This is stupid. I feel bad for the people of Providence. I feel terrible for the people of Brown University. And they have to get this together. It was 20 minutes after the shooting took place that they even sent out an alert to the student body. They never even had any sirens going off on campus. Doo-doo-doo-doo. They didn't even do it. They blew it. And then they got the wrong guy and said, oops, okay, well, never mind. And then they say, trust us, the place is safe. Well, I'm sorry, no one trusts you guys. It's a mess up there. And I really hope they get this guy soon, because every day that goes by, you know what I mean.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. And Western civilization is under attack, and it's a series of attacks that appear to be synchronized. I believe they are synchronized around the world, and it encompasses liberals, Marxists, jihadis, Islamic jihadis, the hatred for the Jewish people, the hatred for Christianity, and the hatred for Western civilization altogether. And it's being done by people that have migrated into these countries, whether legal or illegal, it doesn't matter. Islam is not compatible with Western civilization or governance at all, but especially not your civil rights and your ultimate inalienable right to life. This is the kind of behavior, that little clip from Waters there, he's just expressing a few of the frustrations that we all have with the failure of law enforcement at Brown University and the surrounding state in Rhode Island and city in Providence. That's happening there. My guest today is Steve Abramowitz. And Steve, we talked a little bit about this incident in the opening segment, but let's dive into this. Reporting just before I came on the air added some facts. One eyewitness said that I think it was the TA, the teaching assistant, said he locked eyes with the shooter, and then he started firing with a very big gun. Who knows what that means? But we were told initially there were 40 rounds fired. But this guy says it was probably about 5. They went right up to the individuals that he killed and shot them deliberately and then left. Now, there's a couple things about this classroom. It was being run by the leading economics professor at Brown, a Jewish man. That's one. 2, the young man that died was, I think, an Uzbekistan immigrant that wanted to be a surgeon, I believe. I don't have his name. And then the young lady that was killed is Ella Cook, who's a Christian, but also the vice president of the College Republicans chapter at Brown University, which I can't imagine is very large because Brown, I think, is the most progressive Marxist university amongst the Ivy Leagues. And then they have video of who they think is the real perp after they've named a U.S. Army veteran soldier, infantryman, as the potential guy, put his name out and everything, and had to let the guy go because it was false. I don't know where that tip came from. Did it come out of the FBI? This is what got me to use this incident, as a matter of fact, because if it came out of the FBI, it's another failure at the Department of Justice and their agencies. And then you see the video of the man that they think is the actual perp, and there's a segment of this video where, and I've lived in Middle Eastern countries and been around Arab men quite a bit during my lifetime, where he's walking, and the only place I've ever seen a man do that kind of walk with their hands clasped behind their back is in a Middle Eastern Arab country. Those are the things that we think we know about, but the police won't say any of that. They won't even put out a description of the perp so the public can help find him.
I don't trust anything. I don't trust the video because when I first saw the video, it looked like maybe a trans Tifa type person, somebody like was going through a transition. But then it turns out they arrest a guy. He doesn't look anything like that. He's a small, thin, much younger looking person. And then the video you saw, I saw that too. But for all we know, that was from 15 years ago in Berlin. Like we know nothing. And because but here's what we do know: Brown University is a gun-free zone. The Brown University president, $3 million a year, very liberal woman, and spent a lot of time in D.C. Even that day, had to turn her flight around and come back for whatever reason. She couldn't harden her campus against violence and protecting her students, which is her one job. You got the liberal mayor, the Spanish-speaking chief of police, the governor of Rhode Island. The state with the strictest gun laws in the country immediately blames the gun. Whether it's, it's never the gun. It's the trigger finger and it's the crazy brain behind pulling the trigger. They never discuss that, and they ignore the victims like Laken Riley and Kate Steinle, and now we have a new one, Ella Cook, Charlie Kirk for that matter. But instead, virtue signal to their base, the base now that's been proven to be NGOs, making millions on illegal immigration and pharmaceuticals, regardless of whether these people are from Pakistan, Uzbekistan, Gaza Strip, just bring them in. The old Ted Kennedy 1965 Immigration Act, just bring them in anywhere but England and France. And I wish the Catholic Church and the evangelicals were their base, so we could earn grace from God. But they don't have the same kind of donors. Money as these Qatari folks do. Oil somewhere between $75 and $100 has made them the richest people on the planet, and they don't use their money, unfortunately, to spread the gospel and the good news of Jesus Christ. They spend it on terror, unfortunately, as you can see in Yemen or as you can see in Syria. So, of course, these Obama, Biden, sometimes Reagan, Bush judges, they've been letting them off without bail. In Minnesota, a jury found someone guilty of $7 million of fraud, and the judge just dismissed it. No jail time. So I understand Jesse Waters' frustration. Believe me, certainly not scales of justice or justice being blind. But if you don't know your enemy, if you don't name your enemy, if you don't study your enemy, like General Flynn gave us the book on house-to-house fighting, then you'll get killed by your enemy. And these folks who are coming in here are not coming here to go to Harvard, become the next Einstein, become the next, Amadeus Mozart. They're spreading their Sharia law in places like Texas and Minnesota, and it is causing great, great harm, especially if you are in a religion that doesn't agree with them, like all of them: Hindu, Sikh, Jewish, Christian, Catholic, Protestant. There is a clash of cultures, and we've done this to ourselves. We let them in, invited them in, like refugees like Ilhan Omar, and they turned around and immediately started cheating the system, bringing in all their friends to cheat the system even more to the tune of billions of dollars. And here we are now losing innocent lives over what? Thoughts and beliefs, conservatism and Christianity. We're certainly not aggressively attacking them so that this is some kind of retaliation. This is a jihad. This is a holy war against people that they don't agree with. And that is the most frightening thing in the world. And America was not founded on that. It was the exact opposite. It was founded for religious freedom to be expressed without fear of government consequences. Well, now we have fear of consequences from our neighbors that we allowed in as asylum seekers or refugees or students. It's terrible. It's not what I want from my country in 2026. I got kids too.
It is terrible. And when you combine it with the leftists, the Marxism, especially at the university level, and you combine those two things together, you end up with assassins like the guy Tyler Robinson, that I'm convinced is the shooter of Charlie Kirk. I've seen all the videos and read the documents that we have so far and seen the evidence so far. That's who I think it is, and he's not Islamist, but he's connected into these groups and these networks that are funded by the Qataris, the Soroses, and have these billions of dollars that create the point of attack, which in Kirk's case was Tyler Robinson. But now this time you have folks opining that the young lady, Ella Cook from Alabama, God bless her, was targeted because of this eyewitness from the teaching assistant there that saw that the individual came in. He didn't hesitate. He went right up to her, shot the young man, fired a couple more rounds trying to hit somebody, and then left, as if it was a very well planned and executed operation, which isn't surprising when you look at the video of the shooters in Australia. Exact same thing. Very methodical,
and
very
it took
fairly
11 minutes
trained.
for those police to fire back. So the same problem
in
here.
Australia. Yeah, same problem. Failures on the government's part. Absolutely.
To protect. They just can't protect.
Yeah.
Here in Nashville, we had the Covenant shooting 2 years ago, almost identical, broke in through the window, targeted individuals, and they all 6 were killed. We still haven't gotten to the bottom of who they were and why, but the same situation here where he or she, whatever this person is, targeted at least her, if not all of them, like you said, so had to know where they were, what time, and how it was a soft target that they could actually exploit. There are certainly military tactics deployed here. And again, it was a gun-free zone. So how did they get that onto the campus without being detected? 800 cameras. We've only seen 1 or 2 grainy pictures. You saw the video where he puts his hand behind their back. Doesn't mean anything to us. We can't. And the fact that the person's on the loose. So wouldn't we think, like after the Boston bombing, oh my gosh, all eyes needed to find this person so it doesn't repeat and kill even more? They seem to be like, it went. It was a little mishap, a little misunderstanding. Some people did some stuff, like Ilhan Omar said. It's really quite shocking because, again, $100,000 a year. If I was sending my child to Brown, I would have an assumption that they would be secure and safe and protected. And if something bad happened, they would have our back and protect us. Doesn't seem to be the case. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that most of these colleges stopped relying on tuition to pay their bills and a lot more on Middle Eastern grants and gifts and NIH dollars and research money from the government, who are their real employer. not the parents of the students that are supposed to be there to learn an education, because they got rid of classical education a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah. And, I didn't even bring this up, but I think all the doors on these campuses now, the Ivy League ones, you have to have a student ID to enter them. You have to swipe to enter these. So the guy got in somehow. It's unbelievable. I think you used the right word. It's shocking, Steve, that at the level of either incompetence or malicious non-compliance, withholding of information because they want to cover if something doesn't meet the narrative that they like. It seems to happen a lot in these blue towns inside the United States, and Australia is just a blue nation at this point. They've gone completely down the leftist, Marxist, Islamist road.
And blue towns are
that's
usually
exactly
surrounded
right.
by a blue university, whether it be UCLA, Berkeley, California, Illinois, Northwestern, Michigan, you name it. And you can see where all of these Middle Eastern studies grants and professors have riled up a lot of the students to get them to be activists, really. And so when we saw the burning of the Teslas, or we saw the campus protests, Summer of Love 2.0, where they were camped out at the University of Washington all night long, very anti-Semitic administration there too, and they let them do it. Unlike, say, when Reagan cracked down on the Berkeley anti-war protests, and that was the end of it until Kent State really put the end of it, this is giving them all the room to breathe, like the Baltimore mayor had said during the riots of George Floyd. So we've just basically reaping what we sow. This is the reckoning. This is letting them have the hatred and the just spinning out of control, and then no consequences. All of these judges that are letting them out of jail without any bail or any real consequences just appeases them to do it again.
Absolutely right. We got to take another break. When we come back, we'll see one of the successes that I talked about, but it's the success is okay on the part of the FBI and the Justice Department, but it's the arrests in the group that I want you to pay attention to, because these aren't your ordinary Islamist jihadi terrorists, but that's their mission. We'll be right back with Steve Abramowitz. It's Training Tuesday. You need to pay attention.
The FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force intercepted a scheme by members of a violent extremist group we believe determined to detonate explosives at multiple businesses on New Year's Eve. Last Friday, the FBI arrested 4 of those subjects. The 4 subjects are members of a radical faction of the Turtle Island Liberation Front, a violent, homegrown anti-government group. The subject arrested envisioned planting backpacks with improvised explosive devices to be detonated at multiple locations in Southern California. These bombs were to blow up at the same time on midnight this New Year's Eve. The plan stated that the IEDs would be complex pipe bombs. It included instructions on how to manufacture the bombs and contained guidance on how to avoid leaving evidence behind that could be traced back to them. Our investigation uncovered evidence in that the group would test the explosives in the desert. We learned that the alleged co-conspirators had recently started acquiring precursor chemicals and other items necessary to accomplish this task. In recent days, the alleged co-conspirators discussed plans to travel to the desert on the 12th to detonate the explosive. Knowing this, staged multiple SWAT teams, special agent bomb technicians, our evidence response team, along with the FBI's elite hostage rescue team to disrupt this plan before any harm could occur.
Welcome back to the Rob Maida Show. And look, Western civilization's under attack. You have a building a series of worldwide operations that are going on, and it's a intersection of ideologies that includes liberalism, Marxism, progressivism, Islamism, and their hatred for Jewish people, for Christians, and for Western society altogether, that has culminated in this. And the interesting thing about this group, and my guest is Steve Abramowitz, the interesting thing, Steve, about this group is these are not migrant. They don't appear to be so. They appear to be white, liberal individuals that have made up this Turtle Island liberation group that have now what's been achieved here with this, not the arrest and the disruption of this operation, but the achievement is that the Islamic Marxists have culminated into creating terrorist groups right here in the United States made up by demographics of people that are not migrants from the Middle East or Islamic nations. And that's what's got my interest on this one. What say you, Steve?
I say yes. I mean, one of them is a known Antifa member who's been known to wreak havoc. And so what we're seeing is the Marxists all coming together. The friend of my enemy is my friend. And so, like we talked about earlier about the, gays for Gaza are willing to get involved with the Muslim Brotherhood, not because they all agree that, everyone should be able to love who you love. It's because they all want chaos and will work together to achieve that. And I had said before inauguration, maybe even on this show, sir, before the election, that the AG was the most important pick Trump is going to make. After the Jeff Sessions fiasco, it had to be right this time. Maybe with his first pick, Matt Gaetz would have been, we'll never know. But Pam Bondi hasn't done very well. It's been almost a year, and we've seen no consequences. They did say they designated Antifa a domestic terrorist group, but that has meant absolutely nothing. And this arrest of these folks, I forget the name, their silly name that they're going under, isn't being prosecuted as domestic terrorism, although it should. I hear Dan Bongino wants to quit over disagreements, and Cash is suing an influencer instead of releasing the pipe bomber information, et cetera, et cetera. So Qatar, the Muslim Brotherhood funders, just had a conservative influencer boondoggle in Doha. Yep. Tucker came back saying he wants to buy a house, which is nice. And, you have to be a Muslim in order to own property there, unlike Israel or America. But maybe he's going to, convert to Muslim. I don't know. I don't know his heart. But the bottom line is that the people that they're working with, the ground troops, the cells, the shock troops, one of which I believe is a Chinese national, are literally here to foment these problems. It reminds me very much of, say, the FBI's botched kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer, right? Where they had one or two folks who were ideologically driven to do it, but 15 or 20 FBI handlers entrapping the poor guy. So this is the same thing that we're seeing. Now, if they would have pulled something off in Los Angeles, this would have been outrageous. So it would have been just one more on top of what we've seen in Brussels and in Australia. And several years ago, Christchurch in New Zealand, this happened too. So, and that's another gun-free country. So my biggest concern is that the justice system, the FBI, NSA, DNI, Attorney General are not doing what we need to do to prevent something like a 9/11 from ever happening again, which is exactly what was happening pre 9/11. And we were set up. And so when it actually happened, we all were surprised, but the law enforcement community wasn't. They knew that they had been so lax and so accommodating to the hijackers that it was going to happen. Just a question of when and where. Same thing here now. It's happening ever since, the Miami Pulse nightclub attack, or like I said, the Antifa Chop Chaz zone in Seattle, Washington 4 years ago. These have just been accumulated over and over again. And the bad guys say, why not? We don't get arrested. If we do, we're out in 30 minutes. We've got a bail fund. The vice presidential the vice president and presidential candidate Kamala Harris was actually helping the Minnesota Freedom Fund to let these people out to do all the damage they wanted to do, which led to Kyle Rittenhouse, being a vigilante and ended up in court. So same thing, vigilante justice on the subways in New York. Just last night, I saw videos of Jews being harassed after a Hanukkah menorah lighting on the subway because this hate that not only the government and the law enforcement agents and the influencers themselves have been propagating is leading to real people causing real harm on other real people, the ones who pay taxes and have jobs and made this country great, not criminals.
Yeah, absolutely right, Steve. Well, we've got a question from the audience, the live audience over here. Let's go ahead and take that. Go ahead, Shel.
We have Liz, sir.
Hi, Liz.
Liz? She might be stuck, sir.
Well, we'll see.
I was stuck. Sorry about that.
Go ahead, Liz.
Sorry about that. Hello, Colonel. Hello to your guests as well. My question is, can Brown University or these other universities be held accountable for their lack of security? We send our children to school thinking they're supposed to be safe. And as a parent, if that was my kid, that school would be burned down because I'd hired the best lawyers I could find. I mean, not to have a camera at the front door.
Well, I think it's. I'll go ahead. Go ahead, Steve. I'll let you go.
Oh,
first.
I mean, they had the cameras. There's 800 cameras. It's a small campus. It's not as big as, like Alabama, which is so sprawling. I had Harmeet Dillon on my show very recently, and I asked if this was this type of thing. This is before this happened, a civil rights issue where you're basically not protecting the rights of your young students on campus, especially if they're conservative. And the answer is absolutely yes. And so what it's going to take is material damage to these universities like Harvard. They lost a lawsuit by discriminating against Asians, and it cost them a lot of money before they actually said, okay, we'll change our ways. So the same thing at Stanford and UCLA and Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Columbia is one of the worst. It's going to take people like you to sue them, unfortunately, get a lawyer and spend money to do it, to get them to knock it off. We've seen some presidents lose their jobs over it, but not enough of them. From small universities all the way up to large. I don't know why their hiring practices have gone this route, but it has been a bastion of anti-Semitism, and it's now leading to students not being safe. And 99% of them want to be there to learn, right? The 1% that are the agitators that came here just to be activists and lobby their fellow students against the administration is not good enough to protect. They really should be looking out for the majority, not the loud minority.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that about the campus. It's very small. I've been there. I went to Navy War College in Newport, Rhode Island. I was in Providence and in and around this campus many times. It's very small, and it is covered with video cameras. And it's very damning, Steve, that the videos that have been released are from home security cameras around the area. They're not from the university system, and they're not from the law enforcement unit, that's the police department at the university, or the state authorities, or the FBI. They're from none of the places where you could say, okay, it's reliable because so-and-so, such and such institution captured the data and is releasing it to the public for a purpose, which is to capture the murderer, who is, I'll say it again, Jack Posobiec was talking about this a little bit ago on his show. The murderer is still on the flippin' loose, people, and these people in authority are not releasing the details of what he or she looks like, where they might be from, or anything.
It's exactly like UVA after Charlie Kirk was shot. All the video footage we saw were personal cell phones of people who were willing to share it. It wasn't the UVA cameras, and we know that they have a ton of them. And for all we know, if you listen to Candace Owens, the murderer is also still on the loose. Could be the same person from yesterday. We have no idea because the official authorities have corralled all that, and they won't share it with us for whatever reason, whether they say it's national security or who knows what. So
Yeah,
that
exactly.
is one of the biggest problems, is that in the era where we finally get to the bottom of who killed JFK after 50 years of conspiracy theorists and libraries full of books about it, they finally release it thanks to JFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Donald Trump, and now they've created about 50 more on things like Charlie Kirk, and now this is going to be for Ella Cook, because they refuse to just level with us that we have a problem, and it makes you immediately have to default to the idea, if they won't tell you he yelled Allah Akbar before shooting, he probably did, because what else would they want to hide from us? So
and that
now
causes a problem.
It's
very dangerous. It's very dangerous.
It's so dangerous, and it's so unnecessary, Colonel. It doesn't have to be this way, but for some reason, the FBI, whether it be under Trump or under Chris Wray, they think we can't handle the truth, I suppose, or else they would give it to us. And then we're left to believe it's an ulterior motive, and we don't get to know what that is. So to the callers or the listeners' question, you can't trust your kids at these universities anymore, because whether you're paying $100,000 a year or $50,000 a year, they're not going to have their backs waiting that long for security. Your money's not going towards security because they don't believe in security, apparently. And then you have to go and look and say, well, what's the background of the president? Remember we had Claudine Gay plagiarizing, but she became president of Harvard, the biggest and baddest institution in our country. Something is rotten at the university system in America, which used to be the best. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that they were willing to cater to their donors, their masters, which is, I have a whole list of a whole bunch of not our friends from the Middle East, giving them money to teach the way they wanted us to teach.
Absolutely. And then when you combine that with the influencer propaganda stuff that's going on, I want to devote this last segment after this break to that issue, because we have to figure this out, and the way to figure it out is the truth and the facts, transparently addressing all of these things, and that's just not happening yet. We'll be right back with Steve Abramovich.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
But madness is when you're sad or you're in pain and you're confused. When you're hurting and you don't know why. And that's what happened when Charlie was killed. Candace devolved into madness. I've been watching it for 3 months. She's been trying to figure out why. She wants to know why because she's been confused.
No, Ian, that's wrong.
Well, tell me how.
Okay, I'll say things that I probably shouldn't say, but I'm going to say because I always get super heated on this. Candace Owens has the same security team as Turning Point and Charlie Kirk did. She's lying. She has the same security people. I've been digging into this. I've been meeting with people and talking with them, and I shouldn't say too much because there's more that's going to be coming out soon, because rest assured, people are filing legal paperwork against her. Candace has the same security team, or has used the same security companies and the same security personnel as Charlie and Erica did. So when she comes out and is questioning them, she is lying outright. Now, I've invited many of these people to come on. We'll see what happens. We'll see when they can. The issue is, the moment Candace goes on her show to millions of people and lies, litigation begins. And what happens when litigation begins? People don't do interviews about it. She is exploiting this, and she knows she is, to keep people wrapped up in this insanity.
There it is, folks. This Western civilization building attack includes these influencers, the propaganda narratives that are merging with these ideologies like Islam and Marxism and Christian hate for Christianity and hate for Jewish people and hate for the state of Israel and hate for the United States of America are merging in this attack on Western civilization worldwide. And Tim Pool there from Timcast said it exactly right. Candace Owens is lying. She is lying. And you should go watch some of his episodes recently about this, because Tim is spot on the target. And it's a challenge, but censorship isn't the answer to it. My guest today is Steve Abramowitz. And Steve, you've written about the appeasement of influencers a while back in the algorithms on social media and those kind of things. Why is she just outright lying to the American people and causing all of this fracturing and friction?
Well, the why is a little different of a story, but the how certainly makes sense. One of my most popular articles I've ever written was called Tickling the Algo, which is basically explaining how you look for what's trending on TikTok or X today, and you make a month's worth of content out of it so that you can get your clickbait all month long with just enough truth to make you interested, but a whole bunch of lies to make it salacious. And you make millions of dollars doing it. If you're a big influencer like Tucker and Candace, you can make hundreds, or if not thousands, if you're small like me. So I have just been talking about it in the exact opposite mirror image: discernment. You have to read between the lines, because unlike the evening news or newspapers, even cable news can get away with this. Us podcasters aren't under the same rules as FCC public airwaves. So when they say just asking questions, they really mean they're leading the witness or propagating a narrative they want to, or paid to. So like Qatar, most people can't find Qatar or the UAE on a map. So if those two are carrying the water for them, we really don't know if we're not up on our ancient biblical rivalry information, between Hagar and Abraham and all the rest. So we know these things, you and I, Colonel, because you're studied and you're learned and got some discernment. But the average listener who's out there exercising on the treadmill and they've got Candace in their ears, or they came to her because of her Blexit movement, and so maybe you were considered low information at the time, but now you feel like you're high information because you're getting it from a source like her. The problem is it's not a trusted source anymore. It's not Walter Cronkite or Tom Brokaw. It's Candace Owens, who can say anything she wants on her podcast network. She can lie, cheat, steal. Doesn't really matter. She could sell you products that may or may not be good for you. It doesn't matter. Megyn Kelly, the list goes on. Joe Rogan, you name it. And they're not news people. They're opinion guys. It's like going to the newspaper and reading the opinion section to try to get your news about what's happening. And if you do that, you end up with like Walter Winchell, who is, carrying water for Stalin, and you didn't know about the Ukrainian Holodomor, the massacre, right? So that's my point, is that Candace is free speech. She can say whatever she wants, but if she wants to tell us that the first lady of France is actually a man, she better prove it, because she's going to get sued a lot if they get mad, and that's exactly what's happening. And so whatever happened after Charlie Kirk very well may be just clicking for dollars to pay her defense attorney to take over for that. We don't get to know those things. We're only privy to the information she's willing to say on the microphone. Does that make sense? It's a clickbait journalism business model, and has absolutely nothing to do with truth, justice, and the American way. That's the best way I can put it. She's a Catholic. She married a guy who's related to the royals in England. She has her ulterior motives. We don't get to know those. And so as far as her and Erica Kirk having a summit and meeting together and burying the hatchet or whatever, who knows? 4.5 hours, maybe they were just getting their story straight so they could carry it forward for the next month and have more clickbait. Because the one thing we do know is there's about $100 million at Turning Point Faith just sitting there waiting for the right influencer or the right leader to take it to the next level after Charlie's passing. And we don't get to know anything about those negotiations or what they're willing to say or do to take control of it.
Yeah, Turning Point's raising money hand over fist, along with a couple of other MAGA-type organizations on our side. It certainly isn't Gator Pack. My pack. You can donate to Gator Pack at GatorPack.com, by the way. Throw us a Starbucks coffee a month. sign up for that, or throw $100 one time on there, and we can do more good business for America and help candidates that are true Make America Great Again candidates that don't really give a damn about politics from a partisan perspective or even an individual perspective, but care about this damn country. You know, one of the things that this show stands for, my ulterior motive for this show is to help the American people get truth, facts, with as little media bias as possible. That's hard to do. It's hard to do. I work hard at it, and I fail at it all the time, but I do get some facts out. And that what Tim was saying there is that Candace uses the same security team as Charlie Kirk's team, the same exact ones. It's documented. Those documents are out there. You can find it, which proves she's lying about the piece about his security team being part of the operation, et cetera. You shouldn't have faith in it. The challenge I have with that is that, okay, well, now we have these facts out here. And if I hadn't been researching for this show, Steve, I would never have come across that Tim Pool clip because, I mean, I don't watch him regularly. I watch him when I can because that's the way this business is. Same type of audience that probably watch this show and yours and those kind of things. How do we help the American people, or how do the American people, more importantly, help themselves without calling for people to be censored or put in jail? But how do they help? How do we help them help themselves to know what the truth and the facts are, so that the fracturing that's occurring on MAGA right now, the MAGA coalition, is stopped and prevented, so that we can win in 2026 and keep the House and the Senate? That's
exactly
a big question.
Right. The best thing I can do is say, learn the art and skill of discernment. The producer of my show actually wrote a book called Breaking the Deception Code, The Art of Discernment. You need to be able to understand that if you see somebody say something on the TV, let's just take Sean Hannity, for example. He's the #1 guy at Fox News. If he were to come out and say to you, hey, vaping is really bad, don't do it, I would never do such a thing. And then you see a clip of him between commercial breaks vaping, you now know that you're listening to a false prophet, so to speak, right? Somebody that shouldn't be telling you advice like that, like a hypocrite. Sorry to pick on him, but I just came to my mind. Same thing with Candace Owens. If she makes 32 accusations from everybody from the Mossad and Bibi Netanyahu himself to France coming after her, all these things with no evidence and no follow-up to say, look, I was right. At some point, you have to say, she's not credible anymore. I'm now going to discern that whatever she tells me, I have to take with a grain of salt. I'm entertained by her. She has a little bit of nuggets of truth, but I have to go dig deeper, either follow the money, read Steve's Heartland Journal to figure out if there's more to it than that, if it was a bill that was passed 10 years ago and all they're really doing is just running with it, like the Obama propaganda bill. That's all I can really tell people because, like you said, she has a First Amendment right to say anything she wants. Now, if it becomes libel or slanderous, she needs to get a lawyer, which she can afford. Her husband is very, very rich, George Farmer. He sold Parler to a consortium, and defend it. But if you get to a point where your evening news or your podcaster or your author or your friend who is in the military for 50 years all of a sudden burns you with something that you thought was credible, but it turned out not to be, now you have to determine, can you ever take their word for it again or not? And so when it comes to Candace Owens, as far as her 2025 behavior is, I wouldn't listen to her anymore. But some people still will until further notice. But there's a difference between a conspiracy theorist and a fact-based investigative journalist who actually discovers the truth. Find those people like Amy Mack in Texas and follow them until such time as they disappoint you, which maybe they never will, but they might. And then you won't be so hurt, and you also won't make such a big mistake, especially if they said, hey, I want you to invest $1 million here, and they took it all.
All right. Well, man, thank you very much for coming on today. It's been a great show. Tell folks real quick how they can find you before I have to close here.
Please come to heartlandjournal.com and get it delivered to your inbox every day for free if you subscribe. And we have a Substack now, and we got a book coming out in 2 weeks called Songs About the Heartland, all about the shows I've done, 500 plus of influencers who make a difference in our community.
Awesome. I'll get you back on when the book comes out so we can talk about that. That's great. Fantastic, my friend. I appreciate you. Well, tomorrow's Whistleblower Wednesday, and we got Matthew McWhirter, and we have to do this. It's coming up on Christmas week, and we're going to be talking about the worldwide Christian persecution. Steve mentioned a little bit of it that we'll be talking about in Nigeria, but this is a problem that is big and growing a lot bigger. You need to know what's going on. I'll see you then on The Rob Maness Show.